Howdy, howdy, howdy. This is Zachariah Scott with another quick long source filmmaker tutorial. Today I'm going to be doing lighting in a complex scene. So in the past I've done lighting per shot, where we're taking lights and setting up the lights specific to exactly the composition we need. In this tutorial I'm going to be taking a generic scene, which I don't know the shots for, and just kind of lighting it sort of like a realistic scene. So almost like you're lighting a level for a video game even. We're just going to be placing lights where they logically go and trying to get a nice mood in this room. And I'll try and show you some of the settings for lights, and maybe we'll do some tricks like Gobo overlays and just see where that all takes us. So I'm going to show you. I've already previously done a lighting pass on this room, but I think I can do better. But here's basically what that looked like. So we kind of had a nice orange and blue highlight on these two machines. We had a nice kind of even lit tone around here. A little bit of shading and a lot of bounce lights. And we had this little side room that kind of cast light into the area. You can see here that this chugs quite a bit with lights on. It's a very complex scene build, and I believe rendering a lot of shadow maps on a lot of props generally drives down your speed. So that's basically what's happening here. It's quite an elaborate scene here. Almost 600, maybe 800 props going on here. I've got everything kind of grouped into chunks here, so it's nice to be clean and neat when you're making your scene build. So as you see, I have my characters all kind of grouped off. I have my ceiling truss work grouped off and the wires so that I can kind of open up the roof a bit. I have all these welder assemblies kind of grouped off, and I can kind of just knock things on and off as I need to. Then I have just the entire scene build grouped on and off. Anyway, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and take all of my lights that I've already created, and I am going to just rename that group to old lights, and I'm going to toggle it off. So now it's like those lights don't even exist. We have a room and it's open. It still lags a bit, but it's all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my main key light into this room. And in this case, I've chosen my main key light to be the light reflected out from this sort of side office here. So I'm going to create a new light, which is new light. And this is going to be named office light. And I'm going to take you, drag you into this port. Whoops, actually, drag you into this port. Turn lights on, and I have my office light. I'm going to bring you in here, and I'm going to cast you out into the room. Actually, I'll light the interior here first. So I'm going to drag you up and kind of make that a bit brighter and wider. Whoops. I can turn off shadows for this one too, I think. Disable shadows. Ooh, that's really bright. Let's turn that intensity down. Kind of zero it in like so. Yeah. I'm going to make a copy here and drag him over to the side as well. There, so we have a nicely lit room, and I'm going to make a copy of this light, paste it in, and with this guy I'm going to do a neat little trick, which is I'm going to drag his copy straight down, whoops, straight down, and point it right back up, and I've just created a cheap little bounce light. So I'm going to turn the attenuation down on that bounce. I'm going to get an idea for where that's casting light. So it's casting a little bit of light into this room, which will be okay, I think. And yeah, so get that bounce light and copy it over and make a second bounce light for that second light that I have here. And there we go. So this will all make sense, but just to get us a nice little lighting tone in here. I've also made it pure white. I'm going to fix that. I don't want this to be pure white. I want this to be slightly blue. So I'm going to kind of bring the color down here. Then I'm going to drill into my light, grab all the color options, copy the samples, grab my other 3 lights, and paste the samples. And now all of these lights that I made are blue. Cool. So I'm going to drop all these office lights in here. Office light, yep. And then I'm going to create the light that this office casts outward. So copy, paste. This light is going to have shadows on it, so I'm going to bring that down. Again, yeah, all the lighting I've done so far doesn't even have shadows. So I'm going to aim this out the window and move my camera so that I can kind of see what I'm looking at here. Alright, now I can start tweaking this light properly. So this light is going to cast some nice tight shadows. So I crank down the shadow filter size, and as you can see, that tightens up our shadows. It's going to have a slight radius, which the radius function creates a sort of area light effect where it simulates the light casting from several spots in a zone, which might seem like weirdness, but basically it means that you'll have sharper shadows closer to the light and blurrier shadows farther from the light. So I'm just going to give it a slight amount of that. This light's not casting all the way to the other side as much as I want, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank up the far Z attenuation and the max distance. So there we go. Now the light goes all the way across. However, it sort of is brighter towards the window and dimmer towards the end of the walls there. So see, it's very bright over here and kind of very dim over here. I want to fix that so it is more of an even tone all the way across. So I'm going to bring down a function called the quadratic attenuation, which changes how the light blends over distance. Got a bit of a frog in my throat. Those painkillers dry your mouth out. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Just drinking a little bit of coffee there. Wet my throat. Okay, so quadratic attenuation. I'm going to drag this quadratic attenuation function down, which overall dims my light, but I'm going to bring the light intensity back up. And now we have a more even distribution of light throughout the room. I'm going to bring this up up just a little bit so we have a slight downcast on it. And I'm going to widen you. And yeah, I think that's a nice effect there for my key there. I'm going to make this a little bit bluer even. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and turn on some volumetric. So looking out here now, we have a little bit of a volumetric cast into the room. I'm not sure if I like that. What happens if I bring down the far Z? No. Yeah, I'll leave that on for now. We'll possibly come back to it. Office light. Rename. Volumetric key. Okie dokes. Cool. So the second light we want to set up here is our halogen bulbs. You can see I have 4 halogen bulbs lighting this room here. So I'm going to make a light for each of those and a corresponding bounce light. So light 2, this is halogen volumetric. So I'm going to move that light into position here. Kind of just drag it over and around. That's already very bright. These are going to be the main lighting, the main lights for our room. So I'm going to bring this open and get it up, and it's going to be wider. So I'm going to increase the FOV there. I think I want it to be even wider than that. So I'm going to increase the slider range here to go from 120 to 179. Whoops. So the reason I don't go to 180 is because you get some weird breakiness at 180 where the light can like flip in on itself. So I always go all the way up to 180 but not quite close. So widen that up and now you can see, yeah, I can light this whole freaking room up. So I'm going to drag this down a little bit. And obviously this is a bit intense, so I'm going to bring the intensity down some. Oops. This light looks kind of weird to me. Not quite optimal. Well, that's better. Let's bring that shadow filter up. Yeah, get some nice crisp shadows. And bring the radius up too. So there we go. let's take the color of this and bring it to be slightly red. Well, slightly gray? How about slightly that color? Yeah, that's an okay color. Yeah, alright, so bring that up, bring that down. Okay, so turn the volumetric on. And now we have a volumetric light. So, a couple of things here. This is my old light that cast across the entire room. I want this light to have a shorter range. So, important thing when you're doing lighting is to have gradients. So, just a gradient of, you know, bright to dim or colorful to desaturated. Just blends between things is nice. Just gives you contrast. So what I want to do is I want to have the volumetric here brighter at the top and then kind of fading out towards the ground here. So if I bring the max distance in so that the light is actually inside of the room. Yeah, there you go. You can see the edge of the light now. Just going to put that right about on the floor and take the far Z and bring that up too. So now we have a bit of that going. But yeah, it's... Yeah. Not as cool an effect as I wanted, but it's okay. I'm going to bring the intensity of that volumetric down just a bit. And I have Halogen volumetric 1. So I'm going to copy that, paste it down, and create Halogen bounce. Halogen bounce. Gonna drag that up. So I'm gonna drag you straight down. Ooh, right into the camera. Turn off shadows. Turn off volumetric. And flip this light end over end so that it is instead casting light on the roof. So this is gonna be simulating all the light bouncing off of the ground here and then casting upwards. So I think that's pretty good right there. I'm gonna take the quadratic attenuation and dim it down quite a bit. Whoops, not all the way though. Bring the intensity up just a tiny bit. And we have our first halogen light and bounce. So I'm going to copy that light out and create another one. And I'm going to just drag those two into position underneath my second halogen light. Let me just get that nicely lined up here. Yeah, see, we're getting some lag already. But I think that goes right about there. And if I just confirm that that position is correct, or if it needs to be slid over, yeah, slide you over just a bit, and down just a bit. I'm eyeballing this using the pivot point of the light as a guide for where the light actually is. So let's see. We have that light positioned there. Drag it over. And give it a slightly lower quadratic attenuation. And I think that's good. So cool, we have two halogen lights. Still a pretty utilitarian lighting setup, but let's get the next one going. So halogen light 3 is going to come over here and light the office area. So there is a light on the other side of this vent, which is now sourced, and I'm just going to drag the light position down. And I think, by Jove, we've basically got it. So that's kind of 3 halogen lights down. All right, let's get the 4th. So again, scooting this guy out to where I know the light is. So you'll see we're getting a bit of a lag here. I'm going to take all of these lights, drag them up into my lighting group, and just mute the lighting group so that now we can only see the light we're working with. So, okay, I'm going to drag this guy over, put him in the firing range, and then line him up with the light that he corresponds to. Pull that down. Whoops, don't go too far down. And there we go. So this light, I kind of want to give a bit more casting onto the rear of this area. So I'm going to drag you down a bit more. And kind of bring you up. And there we go. And I'm going to make a duplicate bounce. And again, pull this one into the firing range. just for my own edification. Cool. So, I'm noticing... Oh, I was like, I'm noticing a lot of dark spots, but... Yeah, there we go. Now they're fixed. Cool. So, I think that that is looking nice for these halogens. So, I'm going to take all of these and group them up again into the lights. And I think I should add some lights for these two construction pods. So, I'm going to turn off the existing lights that I have, create a new light. This is going to be Construction Pod Blue. And I'm going to make this light blue. Where the hell is it? Where'd it go? There we go. Construction Pod Blue. So I'm going to drive him over to the construction pod and slip him in there where he goes. So just turn it around. Yep. Let's turn on volumetrics here. Get the max distance on the far Z going. Point this down. Get this up here. Get the color to be blue, as it belongs. Slightly that color blue. Yes. Pull this in as well. Take this light, widen it up even. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. That is looking quite gorgeous. Increase the shadow filter size, or decrease rather. And increase the radius. Let's see. That is looking nice. Yeah, how does the far Z function in here? Alright, I'll go with that. So, if I turn everything else back on, that looks pretty nice in there. Let's give it a bounce as well. So, copy this, paste it down, disable shadows, disable volumetrics. So let's take this bounce and drag it down to the ground, and then again point it up. So I'm going to kind of stick that out like that, and decrease the intensity a bit. And let's see, what else can I do here? I'm actually going to use a couple of bounces here, so I'm going to copy that and paste that down. Kind of rotate you around here, so like so. Alright, take this bounce and turn it down a bit. Checking that against my real lighting. Awesome. And let's see. I think that can work nicely. So I'm going to take these and group them as Construction Pod Blue. Rename this group Pod Blue. The reason I do this is because I can now toggle them on and off as easily as I want if I need to later on. So I'm going to copy this setup and create Construction Pod Orange. So pasting this out, renaming it Construction Pod Orange. So this light I'm going to take and make it orange first. Drag the light over to the appropriate slot and spin it around. So spinning it around, spinning it around. Cool. So let's get you kind of lined up inside of there. Nice. So again, we have the nice shadows on the ground. The light is casting out into the room. I'm going to crank that far Z up a bit and crank that max distance up a bit. I'm going to do the same over here as well. Yeah, cool. Alright. Take this down quite a few notches though. And same with this one. There we go. So we're not quite so overblown there. Yeah, alright, so that's looking nice. That orange light needs to be scooted over though, so drag you over. And you have been scooched. Cool. Alright, so let's go back in there and add some bounces again. So, copying this orange light and creating a disable shadow, disable volumetrics bounce. So, dragging you down and turning it up. Up like that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take the intensity and pull that way down. I'm going to make a copy of this and make it even dimmer. And then bring it over here to this side of the room. And I'm going to do the same with one of my blued bounces as well. Uh-oh. I feel a belch coming on. Uh-oh. Okay, I think I'm through it. Alright, so I have my blue lights and my orange lights. Construction pod orange. Awesome. Oops. That didn't work at all. Group. Rename group. Construction pod orange. Nice. Okay, so what else can I do with the lights in this room? I think I have a really nice kind of blend of colors going on here, but when we look down at the macro detail, we can see that there's still a bunch of stuff we can do. Like here in this turret assembly thingy, I can put some more lights in here as well, so I'm going to make a new light here. I'm just going to make a little spotlight that goes in there and kind of just gives it a little bit more life. So, kind of just driving over there. Let's get this going a little faster. Okay, so driving my little spotlight in there. I'm gonna just bring you in like so. Turn shadows off. Give you a lower intensity. And just kind of give you a little bit of a slightly reddish tinge. Not super red, but just reddish. And then once I slide that in there, I'll give it a corresponding bounce, which will just add a little bit more life into this tiny little feature of the room. So, as I kind of bring that around, aim it up, widen this guy out, and again, make it much, much dimmer. So, much dimmer indeed. Exceedingly dim. So now, if I turn lights back on in the room, we start to see a nice amount of detail has emerged in our little factory, without even biting into our shadow budget. In fact, I can take this lower one, make it a little bit bluer, and we have again another little feature of color and change. So, continuing on, I can do some more stuff, I think. Yeah. So, over here I have a lot of wires that are kind of just hanging over the ceiling, and I want to emphasize that. So I'm going to take a new light and make something that just kind of filters down through the wires. So muting the rest of my lights here so that I'm not quite so bothered. And I guess I shall name these turret, light, top, turret, highlight, bottom. Cool, so again, muting those lights out, and muting those lights out, I'm going to just create a new light which shines down and makes a pattern. So, increasing the shadow filter, and pulling this up, and then again aiming it down into the room, like so. So we have a very kind of wide and thick pattern there, but I can make it a little bit nicer as I go. So you'll see that covers almost the entire room, really. It's interesting, though. Let's see. When I turn the real lights on, that gives everything a really neat detail to it, but it might be too much light coming down. Wonder if I were to play with the color of that. Maybe make it orange. That's really interesting, I think. But not entirely what I wanted to deal with. So, let's go back to this. Increase this brightness. Increase its whiteness. And let's check out what we can do with it. So I'm going to focus this down so it's not quite so broad. And just kind of get it over the office area. Like so. So now that's casting a lot of detail that just kind of breaks up silhouettes and shadows here in our office area. So, yeah, once again, if I turn everything back on, yeah, that's really nice. That gives me some nice highlights. Yeah, I like that. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just going to see if I can make this light a little bit more mechanical as well. So I'm going to go into the element viewer and light it, and I'm going to check out what kind of Gobo textures I can apply to it. So, just for craps and giggles, I'm just going to do a search for shadows and see what I find here while I drink a little more coffee. Let's see if I can find any interesting... No. How about Gobo? Oh, Gobo blinds? Ooh, here, these are all interesting shapes. Whoa. Wait. Whoa. What? Wow, that's crazy. It's like alien writing everywhere. What does that look like when I turn the lights back on? It looks like nonsense. And terrible. Alright, so let me go back in there and get something a little less retarded. I'm going to grab this blinds Gobo. So now I kind of have a lined pattern here coming down. Not really super awesome for my needs, really, when I think about it, but I mean, I can check it out, see what it looks like when blended onto everything. You know, I think I like this better when it's not so crazy. Let's grab a different Gobo. Maybe... How about just this one? It's just a plain gradient. If I turn everything else off, you can see as it kind of gradients along the room there. It's again not super fantastic, but you know, I don't think that Gobos are appropriate in this position, so I'm just going to grab something basic and not worry about it too much. I crashed SFM. Damn it. And I'm back in my scene. I have recovered SFM and appropriately fixed the work that had been lost. Fortunately, I save often and therefore did not lose much. So the last thing I want to look at here, because Gobos are a failure, is lighting for characters. So I think that I could do a couple of extra things here once I turn these lights all back on. A couple of extra things here to make my characters just stand out a little bit better. One of those is adding a bit of a additional just overall bounce light from every direction here to give just kind of an omnidirectional ambient light. So, whoops. I'm going to take that light I just created and disable shadows on it, because I will need to. I'm going to fly this light out quite a bit, keeping it aimed at Magnuson here. And just kind of increase the different sliders here so that we get a nice long throw light that lights our entire scene. So as you can see, that's casting light on pretty much everything, just a little bit. And I just want to bring that down a bit more, and a bit more indeed. The difference, as you can see, is that without this light, we get these dark, unsightly shadows along Magnuson. But here we can just kind of fill those in just a little bit. Think of this as a sort of universal fill light, if you will. So, kind of bring that around. Give it a slightly different color. It's a dim light, so I'm going to make it a bit of a dull blue here. Not quite that dull blue. There we go. We just have a nice little dull little bounce. And let's make another one of those for the opposite direction, because I'm sure the problem exists in two axes. So, slowly going over to the other side of the room here. I do think that, yes, Magnuson could benefit from another little tiny bounce. Oh my god. Whoops. Moving around at this slow frame rate is difficult, to say the least. Let's see here. Okay, back into position. Alright, so let's create the universal bounce in the other direction. So paste universal bounce. Since this is Portal, this universal bounce will be slightly orange. I'm going to drag you around. Actually going to disable lighting while I fly this thing over. And now you can see that I've applied this slight orange cast to just about everything in the room. It's very subtle, but it works out. Just kind of filling in the things that we need to fill in. Oops, let's bring that down a bit more. But yeah, so, as I can kind of freely zoom around the room now, we can see how that has affected everybody in the room. There are now no super dark shadows, no super painfully dark things, but we still have a lot of contrast between colors throughout the room. Yeah, I'm definitely liking this. We have a little more highlight on the computers, on the roofs of them, tops of them, whatever. Things are looking okay in here, I believe. Now I just gotta figure out what the hell I'm gonna do with this movie. Anyway, I'll see you later.